What is going on, everybody? I'm going to put us all on the screen now so you can actually see us. So you're not just looking at this screen here that we've set up. Welcome, everyone, to the live stream. I appreciate everyone coming out tonight. Or today, actually, it's 3 o'clock. My brain is a noodle. Welcome, Matt. Thank you for joining me.
How you doing, Nick? It's our second one of these drafts together. We've now had a little bit of time to digest the news. I think the last one we did was pretty close to the NFL draft concluding. So I'm excited to hear the changes that you've done to your rankings and what we end up coming up with today.
Yeah, definitely a lot different than the first time we did this. And now we also have the puppy tournament. Last time we did this, I believe it was the Best Ball Mania. So if you guys are interested in the puppy tournament, I'll just throw it up on the screen here. Then we'll just talk for a couple of minutes and then get on into the draft. So the puppy tournament over on Underdog is $5 to enter. First place is $75,000. The payout structure is right here. The tournament is already 62% filled, and I believe it was released 2-3 weeks ago. So we're definitely going to get a second, third iteration of this, maybe even a fourth iteration of this. And if you guys played on Underdog last year, they actually increased the prize pool every single time. So it's interesting to see how things are going to go as the offseason goes along. It is currently June. And while there is a little bit of there's a lot of unknown, I'm still very excited to draft today. Shout out to Brandon in the chat, as well as producer Jordan Klein, who is not here because I'm also a producer extraordinaire and could produce my own stream. So shout out to Jordan. All right. So is there anything we should talk about here? Anything on your mind here surrounding the NFL?
I mean, I think the main news that people are talking about right now is Desean Watson and how long the suspension is going to be. Theory-wise, I think some people might be scared off from drafting in June if this is your first time drafting. And you are working with incomplete information, but I just want to highlight that can be to your advantage as well, because everybody in the field is working with incomplete information. So, for example, if you draft Desean Watson now and he ends up getting 2-game suspension, that's probably unlikely, but let's just use this as an example. You're going to get Desean Watson with a far later round pick than somebody who's also drafting in August. So as much as that can hurt you, this is the time of year where you can really build your super teams. The team that won the big tournament last year, I believe, was Mania 2. That was drafted in June. The puppies function a lot like that. They're just a lower buy-in. So there's still a lot of advantages to drafting in June.
Yeah, very much so. And like you said, there's a lot of things that are going to change by the time August happens. There's going to be a lot of ADP changes. There's going to be some guy who looks cool without his shirt on in preseason, or not in preseason, like in training camp. And then boom, he flies up 30 spots in ADP. So things are going to change by the time we get to August, which is the main quote unquote fantasy football season. But it is very interesting to draft right now, as I feel like everyone is definitely a little bit more confused. And Desean Watson is definitely the biggest talking piece. Another thing came out about him today. I'm going to be honest, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if he was suspended all season long at this point.
Yeah, I was just trying to use that as an example. The news there is definitely been more negative, but maybe we could have done an injured player, like, I don't know, a Chris Godwin or a Jameson Williams. If we knew that they were going to miss 1-2 games, then their ADPs would spike. And I think that is more realistic. Desean Watson at this point, I haven't drafted him once. I don't know. Have you drafted him at all?
No, I've done, I think, like 13 or 15 total drafts on Underdog. I haven't drafted him once.
I don't know if I'm going to right now, just because this was to be expected a little bit. I think the news was so negative that, drafting him and missing 8 games of the year, I thought that was more likely than him missing just a couple. And when you're taking 8 zeros, even at the ADP he was going at, it's pretty hard to justify a pick with Desean Watson. So I think that conversation might be a little more interesting for the injured players. And, there's a lot of players that are coming off significant injuries this year, more than I can remember, but maybe this is just recency bias.
Yeah, definitely. One of the biggest news reels from today was that Jimmy Garoppolo was excused from mandatory minicamp with the 49ers. To me, that means that it's almost a lock that he's gone. Now, he is still dealing with that shoulder injury, so maybe he does end up being the quarterback of the 49ers. This is also something that is very confusing at the quarterback position, because I feel as though in August, if Trey Lance is the starting quarterback of the team, where you're drafting him right now is a steal.
He's somebody that I think I have to move up my rankings. He was QB 11 for me, which, it comes down to the mobility. I think his floor kind of becomes that Jalen Hurts level floor. So just to kind of bring you behind the paywall for my personal rankings, it's Lance 11, Russell Wilson's 10, Joe Burrow's 9, Dak Prescott's 8. I would put him above all those. And then Brady at 7 for me is where it would start to get interesting. But if you guaranteed me Trey Lance playing every single game, which essentially a Jimmy Garoppolo trade would do, I think he's QB 8 at worst in my rankings. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I honestly think that if you know for sure he's going to play, you can almost put him inside of not the top 5, but maybe the top 7, top 8, like you said. I mean, the rushing upside is just so immense with the guy, and he is on a team that is just so good, right? Jimmy Garoppolo, who I don't think is like the best quarterback ever, was able to be pretty solid for the team. So I think that if Trey Lance really is the guy they drafted him to be, we are going to be in an excellent situation here for Trey Lance. And I think that he could really finish as a top 5 guy. Not going to rank him there, but definitely think that he could finish as like the number 1 guy in fantasy.
Yeah, it just comes down to like who are you going to put him ahead of in the top 5? Not Josh Allen, Lamar, or Kyler because they all have elite rushing upside themselves. Herbert and Mahomes, they're the elite throwers and just they're so consistent through the air. It's hard to put them above either one. And then Jalen Hurts is essentially occupying the same role in Philadelphia's offense. On a per game basis, Jalen Hurts has just monstrous upside because of his legs. And right now, he's a little more locked in than Trey Lance. If this does end up going the way we think, with Trey Lance starting every game, then you could have that conversation. But right now, that's a little hard to do.
Yeah, definitely. I think, though, right now, you're getting him currently quarterback 11, ADP 91.3 on Underdog. I think that if you believe he's going to be the guy right now, it's definitely the time to be drafting him. So, speaking of drafting, I am going to join into the draft right now to give you guys a chance to join in with us. If you want to draft with us, enter into the draft right now. We'll be doing this every single Monday up until the season starts. And I've got a feeling that as the offseason goes on, we'll probably be doing this more than once a week, I would think. At least maybe there'll be videos of it as well. So make sure you guys do join in the draft. If you are new to Underdog, please make sure you do use promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO, for a $100 first match deposit bonus. If you enter the puppy, you can enter that. If you deposit $100, you get an extra $100, which is 20 free entries into the tournament. So you can have 40 entries into the tournament by just entering $100 onto the website. So please make sure that you guys do check that out. And me and Gajewski will be doing this multiple more times over the summer.
I'm excited, man. Did you enter the draft yet? Do you know what pick we have?
I did enter the draft. We are still waiting on 3 people. I entered, and there was 8 people. We were waiting for 8 people. So that just goes to show how quickly this tournament is going to fill. People are spamming these things. Underdog right now is doing something on Twitter called the Underdog Cardio Club, and I've been doing that. I just go to the gym, bike for 40 minutes, and do a draft, and then tweet it at them. I want that free shirt they're giving out.
I'm out on the cardio club.
All right, it's okay.
No cardio for me. No cardio.
I also changed my Underdog avatar. Now I have one of those like Trojan helmets on my dog, so I'm looking pretty cool. So the draft did start, and we are pick number 7. My last few drafts, I've gotten pick number 1 every single time, so very different here.
Wow, props to you.
Yeah, I have a lot of Jonathan Taylor now.
You definitely like that because you have to have a top 2 pick to get him, usually the number 1 overall pick. So it's funny, like past years, Christian McCaffrey, he's been hard for me to be like overweight on or even level with the field because it just comes down to the random luck of just getting the number 1 overall pick. So congrats to you. I don't have a lot of Taylor right now, but that's just the luck of the draw.
Yeah, it's all based on luck. And it seems like last year I was never getting the number 1 overall pick. That's not even my favorite place to pick, but it is definitely interesting. So right now, where we're sitting in June, where would your favorite place be to pick? And I doubt that your opinion will change by August, probably.
No, I sort of like later picks this year, and we'll talk about this as we get into it. But the strength of the wide receiver position is really top heavy, and then you get into a zone where everyone has a question. Some of those guys are going to pan out. Some of them are probably going to bust, but they're just less secure. So I actually kind of like starting drafts with some combination of like a Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs, and then hitting some of the running backs we feel a little more confident in and getting the secure wide receivers rather than going vice versa with an early pick and having like a Jonathan Taylor and then having to reach on some dead zone receivers.
Gotcha. Yeah, a lot of the data that came out from last year's Ball Mania tournament said that if you drafted a running back in at least round 1 or 2, your first running back, you had a significantly higher chance of winning. But then you have to, or advancing in through the tournament. But you have to also keep in mind that Jonathan Taylor was a 2nd round pick last year, and that probably heavily pushed that number up, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I think best ball in its infancy right now. So you're going to see these trends. And I think fading them might honestly give you more of an edge just because the sample size is so small. Like, this is the first year where there's a $10 million prize pool. The year prior, there was $1 million prize pool. But once you go before that, like Underdog's been around for 3 years now. You could go back to MFL 10s if you want, but those didn't have the same tournament structure. So it's even hard to evaluate those. We're dealing with incredibly small samples that are influenced, to your point, on who the highest scorer was in week 17, who the highest scorer was in weeks 15 through 17. So it's like, it's just very tough to decipher what matters and what doesn't.
All right, so we are up now. 2 running backs off the board, 4 receivers. Who are you looking at here? We got 10 seconds.
For me, it's probably Eckler, just highest player on my board. Keep it quick.
Okay, yeah, for me, that would also be the pick. I think that Austin Eckler could easily finish as the second best running back in fantasy football, and wouldn't be surprised if he was number 1, but it's going to be hard to be number 1 if Jonathan Taylor is healthy, and if Christian McCaffrey is healthy, he's probably is the clear number 1 running back, at least in my opinion, but that's a huge if. I love Austin Eckler this year, though.
I think the tough choice is between the efficiency of Eckler and the volume of Harris. Those are the players that I would be debating right there. Who were available? Harris versus Eckler. So you obviously prefer Eckler as well, but it's very close for me.
Yeah, I also like Najee Harris a ton. My biggest question mark is, will Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky be as keen to dump the ball off like every single play like Big Ben was?
That is a big question, but man, his touch projection is well over 300, I would guess.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. I like Najee Harris a ton as well. Definitely have some questions on guys like Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, some of these second round running backs.
I think, the receivers are already drying up, which is kind of what I was talking about earlier.
Mhm.
CeeDee Lamb going right ahead of us is kind of where like the questions start to arise a little bit. I think there is another tier break once you get past T. Higgins. So now I would like to scoop up one of these guys if we can.
Alrighty, so how are your feelings real quick on Aaron Jones? Just went right before. Seems like a lot of people are getting real high on Aaron Jones right now, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think it's just riding on the assumption that he's going to handle a lot of targets, which I think is reasonable, but he hasn't done it yet. He's going to be splitting time almost 50-50 with AJ Dillon. So he's a little risky, I think.
All right, so you're definitely looking receiver here.
Yes. For me, the highest on my board is, let me cross-reference this one time so I just make sure I don't mess it up.
Oh,
it's
good.
Tyreek Hill for me.
Okay.
Is it?
Yeah, I like Tyreek, Evans, or AJ Brown at this pick. We can go with Tyreek Hill. I have a lot of Tyreek Hill ownership right now because I like snagging
Take Evans
Tua
then. If you don't have Evans,
later.
take him. I have him neck and neck.
Okay, well, we're gonna go Tyreek because Tyreek and Evans are my highest picked in the second round. They're like my 2 favorite players, and I like AJ Brown too. It's just AJ Brown. Stacking AJ Brown with Jalen Hurts has proved to be a little bit difficult because it seems as though everyone, for the right reason, is pretty high on Jalen Hurts, and you don't even necessarily need to have AJ Brown to draft Jalen Hurts because these running quarterbacks, if you just draft them by themselves, they have so much upside. You don't even necessarily need the receiver, in my opinion.
It's easier, I think, with the quarterback position to stack them late if you end up with a highly drafted one. So say you take Hurts, I think it's much easier to complete that stack with Devontae Smith or Goddard than it is with AJ Brown, because really you need a specific draft pick to get AJ Brown. Like you need to be drafting at the top so that way you get him at the end of the second, beginning of the third. If you're drafting late like we were, you end up reaching on him, which is not something I like doing in the first couple rounds.
Gotcha. So now we have a nice solid 8 picks. This is my favorite thing about drafting in the middle is that I feel like at least when we're recording or live streaming is that we're not just sitting here for 2 or like 5 minutes just talking about nothing because it's hard to predict how the pick is going to go 23 picks from now if you're picking towards the end.
I like doing that as well. I don't know. It's kind of nice just going boom, boom, picking 1, 2. But again, I don't really have a favorite place to pick. It's a slight preference right now towards the end, but I don't know.
I like
I think
this
our
guy's
team's going to
name.
look pretty good in the middle.
We got the tenacious teabagger in the draft. We also have Lulsimo, if that is supposed to be a hint towards us. Who knows?
I don't know, dude. So right now is where I think these receivers are getting close to like the tier break.
Mhm.
Where's that tier break for you?
So looking at the receivers, the tier break for me would be right after Keenan Allen. I like Michael Pittman. I do. I just am not sure if Michael Pittman. I think there's a lot of hype on him for good reason, but I'd definitely rather have Keenan Allen than Michael Pittman.
Me too. It's not close. I still have DJ Moore ranked ahead of Michael Pittman. I think the volume is a little more secure with Moore. You could make the argument based on efficiency that, that Michael Pittman's going to have Matt Ryan just far more efficient.
All
So
right, so
I still very much prefer Keenan Allen as the number one.
I agree. So if we go Keenan Allen here, which we are, now that we are going to be up at pick 42, is that where you pull the trigger on Justin Herbert if available? Because we already have Eckler and Keenan Allen, it almost just makes too much sense.
Probably.
Okay.
Probably. Unless
Now,
somebody's falling like crazy.
gotcha. What's your thought process right now? I don't know if we talked about this last time we were on here. On drafting a tight end early, are you someone that always goes into the draft? Because Savoca seems to be pretty keen on in the first 5 rounds. He wants to get one of those elite tight ends, whereas I'm more standoffish. I just see if they fall to me. If they don't, I'm fine waiting.
I agree with you. I think you shouldn't be bullish on anyone in the top 5 rounds. It's how you lose your draft. I think in the top 5 rounds, you don't want to lose. You want to create a portfolio of players. So you would end up don't missing on Cooper Kupp in the 4th round last year because you drafted George Kittle 75% of your drafts.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense.
I
So
like
Darren
take
Waller,
your stands later in drafts, not early. Early, you need to it's so volatile, we're wrong all the time on this.
yeah, definitely. Now, looking at the tight end position, do you feel like there is a clear fall off after the top three? Because if I'm being honest with you, I feel a lot more comfortable with Travis Kelsey, Darren Waller, and as well as the other guy whose name is escaping my mind right
Pitts,
now. Pitts, yeah.
Pitts, Andrews. I think there's a
And
top
Andrews,
5
yeah.
you want. After
Okay.
that, I think is where the tier break is. I do have a preference between the top 5, but I definitely think Kittle is fine to finish with there. Kittle's problem is health. The guy's incredibly efficient when he's healthy. It's just you haven't had him for all the games recently. And you know my injury moniker. It's like you've either been in the league long enough to be injury prone or you're just too young.
All right. So we are back up on the board right now. We are going to complete the Charger stack, if I'm correct, right?
Yes, sir.
Alrighty, so we got the Chargers stack. Now I'm going to pull up on my other screen who the Chargers are playing week 16 and 17 because I think that is somewhat important in trying to really win it all is getting at least one player from one of those teams to try to stack up. And if maybe that is a really high scoring game, then that could really help you elevate yourself to potentially win the whole thing. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think these are all like ideas that aren't fully thought out and tested over time yet. So I think
Oh yeah,
that could
definitely.
be true. But it also if the Chargers just have a blowout, again, I don't have their week 16, 17 opponent memorized to heart, but that could be something you play for as well.
Mhm.
It's just tough. So honestly, we're to the point where there's so much content on these drafts where, if all the field is taking their Justin Herbert stacks and stacking them with their week 16, 17 opponents, I think I might not do that. But again, this is the game theory part of the draft, which is strictly for these large tournaments.
Yeah, I almost think that level of thinking is not the normal, though. I don't think most people are thinking that in depth. I mean, there's a lot of people in these drafts that we do that don't even stack at all. So it's definitely not something everyone's doing. And the week 16, 17 is the Indianapolis Colts and the LA Rams is who the Chargers are facing.
Okay. We have neither team so far.
No, I know. It's not even of main importance to me. I
We
just
almost
figured
had
I'd pull it up.
Pittman. We almost had Pittman.
That is true. How are you liking Alec Pierce right now, who falls greatly in drafts? Let me find his ADP. He is wide receiver 72, pick 159.4. I'm pretty interested in Alec Pierce later in a lot of my drafts because I think
Yeah.
he is probably the clear number 2 guy there behind Pittman.
You think he's clear ahead of Campbell?
Now, I wouldn't say clear. I guess I did say clear, but I think that he could be the number 2 guy there.
Yeah.
Campbell's
Where
dealt with
he's
a lot
coming
of
off the
injuries.
board, I think he's fine to take. I mean, pick 160 is you're not spending anything of note on him. Paris Campbell, I don't even know if he comes off every draft. 201 to most drafts, he'll be off the board. He's a last round pick too. I'd be trying to take one of those two guys more than likely. The Colts have a lot of really interesting late round stacking options for this format. Like you could take a Jelani Woods who's not drafted in every draft if you're
Here, wait,
strictly trying to be unique. There's
real quick,
tight
we're up.
ends too.
We're up. We got 10 seconds. Who do you want?
And make the pick. I'm not ready.
Okay. We're to go with J.K. Dobbins here.
You got to give
I'm
me a
not.
heads up when that happens.
Yeah, that's my fault. You were talking and I was listening and I wasn't even noticing. But my bad. So we got J.K. Dobbins. I wanted Travis Etienne. He went the pick right before us. Do you like J.K. Dobbins? Do you think that was the wrong pick there based upon who was on the board? Because I think Dobbins could be amazing, but he also could be stuck in a fucking committee. So it is a fifth round pick though.
I have them actually back to back in my rankings. Right now, I have Dobbins one place ahead of ETN. I don't think their opportunity is going to be drastically different. It's just that Dobbins isn't going to have as many targets as ETN. Dobbins in a
Yeah,
significantly better offense, so I'm expecting him to score more touchdowns. And they just run at such a high rate that at the end of the day, their touches are probably going to be similar, especially with Dobbins maybe having like a 60-40 edge over Gus Edwards.
gotcha. Yeah,
So
I like.
they're both top 20 for me. I like them both a lot.
Yeah, they're definitely both top 20 for me. What about David Montgomery? Because it seems like everyone seems to be a little low on Montgomery. I understand why, right? He's on a shitty team, right? This might be one of the worst teams in the league, but at the same time, you don't have to be on the best team as a running back to succeed.
With Montgomery, I think you just have to make a lot of assumptions. He's at RB20 on Underdog. That's exactly where I have him in my rankings. But
Uh-huh.
you're making the assumption that the current coaching staff is going to use him exactly like the former coaching staff did. And then
Yeah,
he's on a team that's very bad. So you're just based on the previous track record, he probably handles the 3 down workload, but it's a guess at this point.
gotcha. So we are 5 picks away. Our build is 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, and 2 wide receivers. Based on what we're looking at here, would you be looking to aggressively reach on a tight end? It doesn't seem that would be the case with you. So would you be looking running back here or receiver?
Who's the top tight end on our board right now? Dalton Schultz.
Top
He's
tight end is
okay in
Schultz.
this range, but we're getting about to the place where I think it's fine to draft. And we already have a QB, which sucks because Kyler is at a pretty dang good value right now. Whoever
Yeah.
takes Kyler is going to be getting very good value. So I mean, it's probably receiver, running back.
Okay, gotcha. So looking at the receivers and running backs, the top receivers and running backs, David Montgomery, Josh Jacobs, Antonio Gibson, Michael Thomas, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Elijah Mitchell, Devontae Smith, Traylon Burks. So we are in a pretty interesting situation here. Antonio Gibson went from being a top 12 guy last season to basically falling off the edge of the earth right now.
It's probably Montgomery if he makes it to us.
Okay. I think my favorite pick here would be either Montgomery or Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Michael Thomas just went, so we can't take him. Sad. I know he's very high on your list. I like Amon-Ra a lot too. He would be the guy I like after.
Alrighty.
Elijah
So what do you
Mitchell's pretty interesting too, but Montgomery one place ahead of him in my rankings.
Gotcha. What are your thoughts? I know we're probably not going to be able to get him, but what's your thoughts on Clyde Edwards-Helaire now that he's falling so far?
I have him just behind them. He's at RB23 for me. So it's Montgomery 20, Elijah Mitchell 21, Brees Hall 22, Clyde Edwards-Helaire 23. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has the inside track to the pass catching role in Kansas City, which is where we thought he'd be last year, but just ended up shaking out that way. But they lost a lot of guys in their backfield, replacing them with just Ronald Jones, who we know doesn't catch passes.
All right. So Montgomery and Jacobs came off the board. So are we going with Amon-Ra here?
I would.
All right, I agree with you. I think that Amon-Ra St. Brown is falling down people's boards, not because of how he played last year, but because they just perceive that he's going to lose some amount of target share, like DJ Chark's going to take it all away or something. I'm not too worried. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown, while he's on the Lions, things could be a lot worse than the situation he's in.
Yeah, we don't know that Jameson Williams is going to be healthy. So you could be looking at a clear wide receiver one for at least half the year. Now we could be wrong on that. It's just an unknown. With the running back position too, we're probably going to get somebody here. Like just pull up the running backs.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys left with similar opportunity loads to like a David Montgomery, maybe just a little bit behind him, like Gibson, Mitchell, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Sanders. These are all guys I'm okay with, but the receiver position was going off the board fast. And we're quickly in that range at receiver that, makes you kind of want to plug your nose.
Definitely. Looking at the tight ends, Dalton Schultz is still available. We are 9 picks away, so the odds we get Dalton Schultz to me does seem a little bit low. Based upon who we have right now, are you necessarily targeting any quarterback, or are we just going to keep drafting and then kind of figure that out at the end here for our second quarterback?
Well, our other options are Tua Tagovailoa or Jared Goff. So I don't think we should be aggressively targeting them. That's if we're trying to complete stacks. Again, if there's like a crazy value, then I think we maybe pull the trigger. But right now we're kind of in a range where the world is ours.
Alrighty, gotcha. Since you like Dalton Schultz, are you as high on a guy like TJ Hawkinson here, or would you just be staying away? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, I was really high on Hawkinson last year. I think if he's healthy, he can do it, but I'm not super
If we
interested
take
in this.
Hawkinson, we need to take Goff, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I don't want to do that either. And yeah, that's bad. We're not doing that. So we're about to be up in 3 picks here. What are your thoughts, real quick, on taking a guy like D Hop, who's suspended for, I believe, 6 games?
I'm not taking him before ADP no matter what.
Gotcha.
We're close to it, but he'd probably need to fall a full round.
Okay. All right. So
You're
about to
just
be
eating 6-0s.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not taking DeAndre Hopkins. I have 0 shares of DeAndre Hopkins, except for on another website where I auto drafted him because I forgot. But it is what it is. But we are about to be up here. D Hop, Russell Wilson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Miles Sanders, Hunter Renfrow, top guys on the board. What are you looking at here?
I would personally rank them CEH and Sanders 1-2 in this range. And we're locked into one of them, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I do still like Renfrow a little bit more than maybe other people do. I just think that maybe Devontae Adams being there might help him out. So we don't get Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So we're going to go with Miles Sanders here. 2 guys that were going in the top 3 rounds last year and have now plummeted into the 7th round. So you like Sanders here? I feel pretty comfortable with him.
Yeah, feel pretty good about Sanders. He's in a run-heavy offense. He should be the lead back. He will be a timeshare to some degree, but you can say that just about every running back in this range.
Agreed. And now with the running back core we have of Eckler, Dobbins, and Miles Sanders, we don't have to egregiously pounce on these running backs that are going in this range, where afterwards there's a lot of uncertainty after Edwards-Helaire and Sanders came off the board. Like Kenneth Walker, is he really the number 1 guy there? I'd feel a little bit more comfortable drafting Penny.
At their prices, I think I agree with you right now. Penny, I don't know what their long-term plans are for him, but it's mainly because of injury. When we've actually seen him on the field, he's been efficient, and that was evidenced by his late season run that propelled people to some championships last year. The problem was for best ball, most of those teams that had Penny had probably lost and not advanced. So for him, it's just injuries. But Walker, he's a player that doesn't have a pass-catching pedigree. We'll see how that looks in a really inefficient offense. But overall, I'm with you.
Gotcha. So tight ends still left on the board: Dallas Goddard, Dawson Knox, who doesn't seem like you're as high as me on Dawson Knox, but it didn't seem like you were super low on Knox. Zach Ertz, Gronk, Firemouth. Any of these guys interesting you here, or are we just going to go with some more running backs and receivers?
So I think you're referencing the debate you and Savoca had, where I ended up being just
He was right in the middle.
I was in between on almost every single pick for you guys. My tight end preference here is still Goddard. I would rather have Ertz than Dawson Knox right now, but it's close. They're literally like 2 players away from each other in my rankings.
Are you okay, since it is right now June, drafting Gronk, knowing that maybe he doesn't play? Because I'm still under the assumption that, dude, he's going to play.
We should have talked about him at the beginning of the show, because he's a player that's kind of gotten these little tidbits of positive injury, I guess not injury, but positive information for training camp.
Yeah.
Everything that comes out of Tampa Bay is like, we're expecting him to be here, like nothing to see here just yet. So I think we're just getting positive reports. And Gronk had the most efficient season he's had since like mid-New England days. He was
just
excellent.
like with Aaron Hernandez on the fucking team.
It was crazy. Gronk had a career resurgence last year. He would probably be tight end 6 for me if you guaranteed me he was playing. So I like Gronk a lot. He's a player that I think you could get a positive edge on right now.
Yeah, he was a guy that when me and Savoca did our first draft, we got him in the last round. So it's very interesting. So
that's unbelievable.
We're back up on the board here. 25 seconds, 3 running backs, 3 receivers, 1 quarterback. Who are you looking here?
I like the Gronk pick. What is his ADP overall?
His ADP is 123, so we could definitely win.
Don't take him now then. For me, it's probably just best receiver.
All right, so Renfrow, Lockett, or Lazard?
Renfrow.
I'm in that agreement there. I think Renfrow, like I just said before, I think with Adams there, while that may take away some of the crazy upside he has to get 1 million targets, even without the targets, I think he'll just be so efficient in this offense. And I think teams are really going to look to key in on Devontae Adams. It would only make sense, right? He's like one of the best receivers in the NFL.
Yeah, for sure. You got Waller there too. Again, like with Adams coming into the picture, targets will drop, but offensive efficiency, more touchdowns scored, that should also help Renfrow, as long as he doesn't score 2 touchdowns, which I don't think he will. he might not be a red zone weapon in terms of size, but he's an excellent route runner. And when you can get players that create space in that area of the field, it's just as important.
Yeah. So Mike in the chat asked, who's this year's Jonathan Taylor? I know it's kind of off topic, but who do you think it is? Because I right now would say that if you're trying to figure out who the best Jonathan Taylor comparison is, would be someone who's going in like the second-ish round. And I would say that is going to end up being Aaron Jones.
What's Aaron Jones makes sense for me. Javonte Williams is a nice parallel, young player with talent that could ascend above an aging veteran. Probably Javonte. Dobbins honestly makes a little sense here too. ETN, those are all options for me. Maybe they're coming off the board a little too late, but those would just be some names.
Yeah, no, I agree with all those, except for Javonte. I'm much lower on Javonte than everyone else because I just think Melvin Gordon's there to stay. Like, he's going to see enough touches to where it's going to be pretty annoying, I would think, unless he gets hurt.
I think so. It's tough. It's a new coaching staff, so
yeah, it's true.
You make the assumption that they're going to use the pair of backs in the exact same manner that the previous regime did. But then again, they brought Melvin Gordon back. And generally, like when teams are drafting players and signing players, it's with a purpose. So you can read between the tea leaves there as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think you bring Melvin Gordon back to just let Javonte Williams carry the rock 70% of the time, right? That's just how I
mean, their running back room is not terrible. When you look at who else is in that room, like it's not, I don't know if you needed to bring him back. Mike Boone is still there. I don't know. He's there though, so we have to at least factor it in.
Definitely. So where we're at right now with 3 running backs, I don't necessarily think we need a 4th one, but this zone of running backs, while it might be the running back dead zone, I'm pretty high on Singletary, Edmonds, Penny, these guys. Now, we don't necessarily have to draft them. I just figured I'd bring them up.
Those are the exact 3 players that I like in this range too. And this is a range where if you miss on one early, I definitely want to come away with one of these guys who basically project as the leader of a committee, but for the most part, they're good offenses. They have pass catching ability. So I think they're good backs to pick in this range.
Right. Who do you want then? Because we have 14 seconds. If you want running back, Singletary, Edmonds.
Edmonds is my number 1 in this range. But you've Singletary. That's fine with me too.
Okay. Well, I think it makes most sense to go with Edmonds in case we backdoor trap ourselves into Tua because we already have Hill. So
this is your team, man. All in on Miami.
Yeah, I mean, I already have Justin Herbert Tua stacks already because I love Tua. I love Justin Herbert, so I like it.
I love Tua coming out of college, and man, it has not been good.
Oh, I agree. He definitely does not look at all like what he looked like in Alabama, but maybe this year's the year, right? Maybe Flores really was impacting him heavily. You never really
Well, this is the first year he's had a receiver core that was even some semblance of what he played with at Alabama.
Yeah, I mean the wide receiver core last year, besides Devontae Parker, I mean it was bad. I was someone who's really high on Preston Williams his whole career, but dude, like he hasn't done shit in reality.
I liked him too. Rip for him. 4-star recruit, got in trouble, had to go to Colorado State. UDFA that makes it was an ACL tear.
Yeah,
rip.
Terrible. So we are about to be back up on the board here. Very interesting that Rodgers goes this late. Now, I don't think we should pick Rodgers, but the fact that he's going in like the 110 range and he's back-to-back MVP is crazy.
Yeah, it's just, even with that, he never puts up great fantasy numbers because he doesn't run. And now he's in an offense that's presumed to be a little run heavier without Devontae Adams. So I understand it. You also have dual quarterbacks that are just ascending up the board. Jalen Hurts and Trey Lance are going to go ahead of him just because they run, even though they're nowhere near the same caliber player.
All right. So we're about to be back up on the board here. Looking at running back, receiver, tight end, Tyler Boyd, Michael Gallup, Jameson Williams, top receivers, Ramondre Stevenson, Alexander Madison, Dameon Pierce, Ronald Jones, top running backs. And then tight end, if we were to go Gronk, I feel like we'd have to strike now, even though it is 9 picks out of ADP.
I think Gronk is fine in this range. Okay. For me, it would be either Gronk or Galladay.
Okay. So
I don't want either Gallup or Jameson Williams right now because they're like, if they miss 8 games, you're just taking an egregious player right now.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with Gronk. I think personally there's like if Gronk is healthy, to me, he could be a top 5 tight end. And around this range, you're just never going to find that, in my opinion. So I'd rather just go with the upside on the tight end. So we'll go Gronk here. I think there is a chance that Galladay could fall to us 12 picks away because it seems like Galladay, people aren't as high as they should be, I don't think, on Galladay.
I think you're just missing an opportunity for an offense that's going to be much pass heavier. They're going to be running 4 wide more often. They're going to be faster. Maybe that doesn't translate to the same efficiency we saw in Buffalo, but even just the raw volume spike that we should see, it should make Galladay valuable as a player coming off the board outside the top 100. And the players he's going around, you have 2 injured receivers in Gallup and Jameson Williams. Like Gallup just went. If Gallup doesn't play 8 games, like that's going to be a ridiculously bad pick.
Yeah. One of my favorite picks down here is Jameson Crowder. I'm not too sure if my rankings would agree with that, but my brain does. I have to update my rankings very soon. Savoca showed me how to update them. So Jameson Crowder is a guy that I love in Buffalo. Would you be surprised if if he was getting more targets than Gabe Davis? Because if I'm being honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't think it's a stretch. Gabe Davis has been relatively efficient, but he's never had the same volume. So you're definitely like, it's kind of a hot take, but is it really that hot? You know what I'm saying?
No, I don't think so. And
don't
I
think it's that
also
hot either.
think real quick, if we want Tua, I think we almost have to take him here because there's just Kirk and Justin Fields ahead of him.
Our other receivers are
Tyreek Hill, Keenan Allen, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Hunter Renfrow, and all their quarterbacks are gone unless we want to go with Jared fucking Goff if you want.
No, I don't think we have to, but I'm okay not doing that stack too. Galladay's gone, so now we have a tough choice.
All right. So, I mean, we could technically wait on Tua. It's just I'm not too sure if he'll be there at 138.
Right. And I don't think it's imperative that we complete the stack. We already have a stack.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think we could... No, never mind. He's already gone. I was going to say if we got Galladay, we could have went with Daniel Jones. Let's just go... We don't necessarily have to go quarterback. So who would your highest ranked player be right here? I like Jarvis the most. I mean, he's a pretty safe pick, but I see the upside.
Yeah, it's probably Jarvis for me. Just pulling it up on the back end. And it's tough range.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, I think we have solid enough running backs to where we don't need to necessarily take a shot on a guy like Damian Pierce or Rojo or Rashad White here.
No, I think you could maybe bolster tight end.
Okay. So you want to go with the tight end here? We have 5 seconds.
Pick Jarvis. You're ready.
Okay. All right. I was already ready for Jarvis. Do you like Gajewski? Because there are now reports that I read today out of Miami that Jarvis has been watching George Kittle tape and maybe they're going to try to make him block more. I think that'd be really helpful for his upside in fantasy, but I don't know. Maybe that means nothing to you. I just think that if he's blocking, it means he's on the field more, and that's better than him getting cucked by Durham Smythe a couple of times a year.
Yeah, it is. The question is, one offseason of blocking, is it going to even make Mike Gesicki 50% the blocker that Durham Smythe is, or Adam Shaheen, or whoever they use? So it's
probably not.
Like, what are they supposed to say? Someone asks you, like, "Oh, how's Gesicki's blocking looking in the offseason?" What do you say? Like, the guy's crap.
The guy's ass. 201. The guy's trash.
Guy's crap. Yeah, I don't know.
All right.
So there's stacks that we can complete late that I'm not that worried about completing the stack there. Like, so one we talked about earlier, if we wanted to go Matt Ryan, Alec Pierce, Matt Ryan, Paris Campbell, love that. You want to do like the field stack is pretty gross. I don't know if I'm trying to do that, but even like a Zach Wilson, like late round receiver, Corey Davis. There's plenty of options down here where I'm not too worried about like reaching on Tua. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we already have Jarvis. We could also do Jarvis Jameis. I'm not sure how high you are on Jameis, but
then Mac Jones. Jameis is a locked in starter.
Yeah, like if we want Jameis, we probably have to pick him soon though.
Right. No, I'm trying to lobby for him. Like, you don't think there's any risk of him getting benched? I certainly do not.
No, I don't think there's any risk at all with him getting benched. I mean, the team looked so good with him. You remember that first game against Green Bay?
What did he throw? 5 touchdowns?
Yeah, and then
ridiculous.
Their one tight end scored like 3 touchdowns. Everyone picked him up in fantasy, and he scored like 0 points 4 weeks in a row.
Was that Troutman?
No, it wasn't Troutman. It was the other guy whose name's escaping me, and everyone picked him up. It was so fucking funny, and he was so bad. But I don't even think I'll be able to find him on here. Like, he's like a no one.
I don't remember who it was.
God damn it! No, I wish I knew who it was too, because it actually was hilarious. And I know for sure I picked him up on my team.
Nick Vannett?
No, it was. I'll find his name. All right, but we're about to be up, so let's focus on this first, I guess.
Yeah, no more misses.
All right. So looking here, would you be fine going Jameis? I know it is slightly ahead of ADP.
Yeah, I think we could go Jameis. Unless you want to wait on and just not complete a stack with one of these guys, I think that's okay too.
Okay.
Like I like
I'd
Daniel
like
Jones more than Jameis, but he comes off later.
Yeah, but the problem is with Daniel Jones, like all the receivers are already gone. Unless you want to go with like Wandale and Sterling Shepard.
Yeah. Again, I don't think I'm not completing stacks of every single quarterback that I draft. I think it's smart to try to, but when we have to reach egregiously in ADP, I'm not doing
All right.
it.
So then who do you want?
Jameis I don't think is a big reacher, so I'm okay taking him.
Okay, so we'll go Jameis. I think that what's your thought process here, real quick? I don't know if we've talked about this together, but if you take Eckler, there's no way you're taking Isaiah Spiller, right? Like that's just my thought process on it. Or are you maybe a little different? Maybe you're fine doing it in a best ball league.
So I think it depends on your field size. There's been some discussion about this where you're going to be unique doing it because the common sentiment in the industry is that you don't want to waste a roster spot. But if there's a chance, like a late round player like Isaiah Spiller has standalone value, think of him maybe like, I don't know, being like a Tony Pollard is probably too generous, but let's say like 30% of the work, get some touchdowns, maybe to like what a Justin Jackson did formerly for this team. And then if one of them goes down, you're guaranteed to have the guy who's locked in. There could be some value there if that build is completely unowned. So that's just what it's all dependent on, is that nobody else has the build. So I don't know. That's been a common debate in the industry right now. And I think the answer is we don't have a big enough sample to really know, because there is a point where that would become efficient, but is it going to be played enough? And I just don't think we have the answer.
Gotcha. And I figured out who it was. It was Juwan Johnson who scored 2 touchdowns against the Packers. He had 3 receptions, 21 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Shout out Juwan Johnson.
Pride of Tennessee, I think.
Maybe. I thought he came out of Oregon, but I could also be wrong.
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking of Juwan Jennings.
Okay, gotcha. Oh, good. He's some guy that you'll see like once a year on Red Zone scoring a touchdown. So
it's true.
All right. So
let's go over how many picks so we're up?
We are 4 picks away. We have 2 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 5 receivers, and 1 tight end. My favorite tight end that would have been available came off the board in Njoku, who just got a fat check.
Love Njoku. Like Irv Smith a lot here. Akwe Boonham's interesting. Higbee is very safe, I feel. I'm very surprised Higbee's still like going this late in drafts.
I think Everett's interesting because we have the Chargers. Maybe not for you, but I think Everett's could be the number 1 tight end there.
I agree. I think he will be splitting time similar to what he did in LA with the Rams, but like that offense throws enough where I don't know if it matters a ton, especially because we don't have to pick him right now.
Yeah. All right. So then if we're not looking tight end here, Jacoby Myers, DJ Chark, Tyler Algier, David Bell, Corey Davis, George Pickens, Alec Pierce. 30 seconds on the clock here.
Yeah, who's the top player again?
A top player on the board would be Chark if we're not going tight end.
Chark or Davis? Man.
David Bell, Corey Davis, George Pickens.
Probably just Chark. It was or Corey Davis, which is pretty tough.
All right. I'm going to go Chark. I like Chark a decent amount. I think, like you said, if the other receiver is missing serious time there in Detroit, we really could see Chark just slot in as the number 2 guy for 8-9 weeks. And I think Chark, he was on like a really solid career path. It went down the drain, but I think there may be a resurgence here in Detroit.
Yeah, it's all injury.
Definitely.
And playing on the Jaguars.
Yeah, definitely. Playing under Urban Meyer is not going to help you.
No, definitely not. And the previous regime wasn't great either.
Alrighty. So looking at the board here, we are up in 9 picks. If we're looking to go heavy on LA, which we don't necessarily have to, I think Joshua Palmer would be the pick. Again, don't have to be that way. I also like at running back, I'm pretty interested in Darrell Williams, I think, being the 2nd string guy in Arizona.
Yeah, I think.
To go back, running back.
Pull up running backs. I think I'd rather have Algier.
Okay, yeah, Algier, Gainwell. We already have Sanders. James
right,
Robinson.
So Gainwell doesn't make. I don't even think Gainwell's the handcuff. I'd rather have Boston Scott.
Gotcha.
Is that Gus Edwards?
Yeah, Gus Edwards goes so late every single time. We have Dobbins though, just to note.
I cannot believe he's still there.
No, he goes this late in every draft. I got him at I think 180 in the last draft.
That's egregious.
It is. It's crazy.
He's by far the number 1 player on my board right now.
Okay. So you're
fine. That doesn't, because of our build, we're sort of prohibited from taking him, but like just for the purposes of discussion, he's laughably undervalued. When you
I
make your
think so as
fantasy
well.
football thread later today on Twitter, I hope you include something about him.
Yeah, Gus Edwards could easily have multiple games where he scores over a touchdown. So,
Okay, tell me what is the difference between AJ Dillon and Gus Edwards?
the fact that AJ Dillon goes 5,000 rounds earlier, that's the
That's
difference,
it.
probably.
That's
So,
it. I
yeah, I
think
don't have any
Gus
Dillon.
Edwards. I think Gus Edwards has a higher projection for touches.
That makes sense.
If
Brian,
it's at least close.
I didn't know it was Brian's question. We can answer that in a bit. So, do you want to go Gus Edwards here, or where do you want to go? 30
I
seconds.
don't think we should. No, I'm just that was all
Okay.
discussion based. Like we should pick up a tight end. Do we need to? Is this still an egregious reach?
I don't think so. So we're 9 picks away from ADP. Someone's going to
Okay.
take Everett if we don't.
Okay, so we should complete that stack.
Gotcha. I like Everett a ton. Very slept on player. And I think Higbee, your talk about Higbee also was pretty interesting. Are you at all in on Taysom Hill? I am
Yeah.
not. I'm so far away from Taysom Hill
Oh,
right
do
now.
you mean out or in? I'm out.
I meant in. Yeah. Are you in on Taysom Hill or
No,
no?
I'm not in. I'm not in. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Because it seems like everyone's taking him here in like the 16th, 15th round. It's like, dude, do people really think he's going to play quarterback? Like, I think he had some blackmail on Sean Payton, and that's why he was playing football.
That could be true, dude. It's not very rational for the amount of time he's actually been playing. It's crazy. They
All right.
weren't
So I
bad
think
with him under center, though.
no, they weren't. I'm just saying, like, I think it would really take Jameis getting blown out in order for that to happen. Jameis would have to get hurt in my book.
I agree with you. I mean, why would you vocally have him playing tight end if I don't know? I'm with you.
Alrighty. What are your thoughts, real quick, on Mark Andrews? He's like basically a last round, or not Mark Andrews, Mark Ingram. He's basically like a last round pick. And assuming Alvin Kamara does potentially get a suspension for what happened around the Pro Bowl, that could be a really sneaky pick. Again, he might get cut though. You never know.
Yeah, I think Mark Ingram. I don't think he gets cut, but he's a veteran with the team. He knows the offense. There's that continuity there, and he has potential standalone value because they don't use Kamara as an every down back. Typically, only when they need to.
All right. So we are in the 15th round. Our pick is in 30 seconds. That means we have the 15th round, 16th, 17th, 18th round. So we got 4 picks left, 2 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 6 receivers, 1 tight end. Where do you want to go here?
I think we either take a tight end or we start taking some shots and some upside receivers.
Gotcha. So looking at tight ends, I basically think the tight end position has completely fallen off at this point.
Agreed.
So
I
I
think
think
we wait.
we're better off just waiting. Okay.
Yes.
So running back or receiver here. You want to go receiver?
Yeah, for me, it's probably like an AJ Green, honestly.
Okay. My favorite picks here in this range are, I think Curtis Samuel could be interesting. I like DPJ and I also like Odell, but I'm fine going AJ Green. I think he is a very safe. We know what he's going to be, in my opinion. So I like.
Yeah, so I would rank those the opposite of you. Would have been AJ Green for me 1, Sammy Watkins 2, Curtis Samuel's at best the number 3, DPJ is at best the number 3, Sammy Watkins, he's the upside guy. Odell might not play the entire year. Mechie might not play the entire year. And like the Mechie Odell Beckham thing is the exact same argument with the Jameson Williams Gallup, especially with how late they both tore their ACLs. Like you are rolling the dice on those players.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm just thinking maybe at the end of the year, if Odell lands on, say, the Rams or he goes to Cleveland or something and Deshaun's healthy, like you could see maybe 3-4 games out of Odell that are usable. And when you're in the 15th, 16th round, that could be more than some of the other players going in that range. That's just how I think of it.
I think that the players you're looking for in this round are your Renfros. Where, like, if you're taking 14 zeros from Odell, you're probably not making it there.
Maybe,
but
you never know.
You never know. You're right. You never know. If you end up with like the Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp, you could be propelled there. You truly do never know.
All right. So Justin Ross is a guy whose ADP is 198. I've seen him go as high as this range we're in right now. Thoughts on Justin Ross in terms of redraft? I think that we are propelling him up. People are propelling him up too high, but I'm still drafting him because, like, wow, maybe he is the number 2 guy in Kansas City.
He's an undrafted free agent. He's not your typical undrafted free agent, but
Definitely.
Those players have very low hit rates. I will just wait till training camp and get news that either he's not with the team or he's functioning as the wide receiver 2 to make that call.
Gotcha. Okay. So we do only have 4 running backs. Do you think we should draft one more before we get out of here?
Probably, as long as we can get decent value on one. But I think there's plenty of guys in this range we could look at.
Gotcha. So at running back, James Robinson, Raheem Mostert, Brian Robinson, Marlon Mack, Deonta Foreman, Sony Michel, Hassan Haskins, who I think will be the number 2 guy in Tennessee, Zamir White, Mark Ingram, Dearness Johnson, Kenyon Drake. Any of those guys tickling your fancy here?
Top 2 would be Foreman and Ingram for me.
Gotcha. Now, I would say Mostert would be my favorite, but we already have Edmonds.
I was just going to point out Mostert too, but like you said, he doesn't make much sense for our build.
Gotcha. And I think Marlon Mack, maybe he sucks, right? Maybe like that injury screwed him, but he also could just be the number 1 guy on the team all year in the 16th round.
You're right. He'd probably be 4th on that list for me. Okay, I'm fine with Marlon Mack, excuse me.
Okay. You know what? I want to go Marlon Mack here. I don't have any Marlon Mack.
Get some Marlon Mack exposure in your life.
All right. So we have 2 picks left, round 17 and 18. I like the build we went with so far. This is pretty typical to what I have at this time. I typically do 2, 5, 9, 2 is normally my build.
Again, I like that build a lot, especially because receiver's a little, I don't know, riskier this year.
Gotcha. So Brian in chat asked a question that if we can't figure it out here, we can just do it at the end. Herbert and Keenan Allen stack, Jackson, Andrews, Cousins, Jefferson. Who is the best stack in your opinion out of those guys? So again, Herbert, Keenan Allen, Lamar Jackson, Andrews, Cousins, Jefferson. My favorite would probably be either Herbert and Allen or Jackson and Andrews, but I like Jackson and Andrews upside the most.
I agree with you because of the legs of Lamar. And Andrews is locked in number 1 target. So that is the number 1 in my opinion. It's close with Herbert, Keenan Allen, but I think Cousins, Jefferson is clearly the 3rd.
Yeah, I agree too. I think it's not that Cousins is a bad player. It's just his rushing upside is the lowest by far out of all of them. Like Herbert at least has some rushing upside.
Yeah, and he's in it's a new regime coming into Minnesota, but I'm still presuming that they will be a little run heavier compared to the Chargers.
Definitely agree on that. So thank you for the question, Brian. If you guys have any questions while we're doing this, now it is a little bit more difficult when we're at pick 7 because we're just going back and forth repeatedly. But when we're at like pick 1 or 12, it's very easy to answer a lot of questions. So we're about to be back up in 4 picks. We already have 5 running backs. So would you look to add another one, or are we going to go like wide receiver, tight end here with the last 2 picks?
Probably wide receiver or tight end. What do you think of Julio?
Dude, I got burned by him last year. I don't know. I think he still has some juice left in him. So I'm not someone who holds a grudge. So I think he still has some juice left in him. It's just the fact that he's not on a team right now. Like, where can he really go? Like where are you thinking?
Green Bay, Kansas City, Baltimore, Tennessee. Probably not Tennessee because that just failed. But
we could go.
I don't know. I think there's places that could use him. New England.
Yeah, you know what? Let's go Julio. I don't have any Julio. You kind of talked me into him here. And again, this is like the second to last pick. So you never really know what's going to happen here. So I'll go Julio. Last year, it just didn't look like it used to. Julio just didn't look like the same guy.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is the 17th round pick versus like 5th, 6th last year.
Yeah, definitely.
The other thing, players I would look at heavily here, Romeo Doubs for Green Bay. He could be a starter. I think you could take Byron Pringle as long as he's not suspended. You walk your way into the wide receiver 2 for the Bears. Now, is that valuable? Maybe. But
I would think so.
Yeah. So, and he's 1 injury away from being the wide receiver 1, which we don't say a lot about receivers, but your 18th round pick could theoretically be a wide receiver 1 in events of injury. So that's at least interesting. Other than that, I'm not too interested in Bourne. Campbell, I think, is fine if you have Matt Ryan, but we do not. Yeah, it's a tough range.
Yeah, it definitely is. The tight ends down here, it's just bad. Like, I think Brevin Jordan's kind of interesting, but not someone I'm pressing.
Just tight ends.
Yeah, just tight ends here. Oh, my bad. Just tight ends. We got Brevin Jordan, Cameron Brate, CJ Uzama, Mo Ali Cox, Trey McBride. I don't know why people are drafting McBride.
I think Ricky Seals-Jones is probably my favorite. Or OJ Howard.
Yeah, I like Ricky Seals-Jones a lot. I think I talked about this with Savoca. Like, he's probably the clear number 1 tight end there, right? Like, the names of tight ends they have without Evan Ingram, it's terrible.
Their tight ends are horrific. Like, I can't believe they plan on actually playing this roster out on game day at tight end. So it's Ricky Seals-Jones, Jake Hausman, Chris Myrick, and Daniel Bellinger, rookie out of San Diego State. My goodness.
All right. I think we can go Ricky Seals-Jones. I'm fine drafting 3 tight ends. I never draft 3 quarterbacks though, unless it's like I went down bad and I didn't draft one of those like top
I'm
25.
fine with it too, especially because one of them is late.
Gotcha. So we're gonna go with Ricky Seals-Jones. That makes the most sense, unless someone's listening here and snipes us. So I didn't even notice the chat was updating. So Pecan said St. Brown is a stud. I agree. Williams was his first thought as well as the guy who's gonna be the Jonathan Taylor. Juwan Johnson, maybe he was correct. And then I love the Lamar stack this year with Dobbins and Andrews. I agree. So you're good with Ricky Seals-Jones, correct? Just making sure.
Oh, there's someone from the chat. Bond B was with us. Rate my team.
Oh, okay. My chat is not updating then. So we're going Ricky Seals-Jones here. All right. What's his name in the
It looks like the name is Bond B07, 007.
Oh, he was in a draft with us last time. This man, bro. Trying to snipe us. Yeah, I found him.
Drafting right ahead of us.
All right,
Okay.
I think when someone picks, it's gonna like move off of them, so we just gotta wait till the draft ends, which is
Okay. We can talk about it at the end, but we can talk about our team first.
okay. So our team, to recap. Before I recap the team, were there any picks you really liked here?
I'm just running through the team in my head because I don't have it in front of me. Yeah, my favorite's Gronk.
I would agree.
It's on the presumption that if he is the clear starter, we probably have 4. Wouldn't you say we have like 4 rounds of value?
Yeah, definitely.
What was your favorite pick?
My favorite pick is probably, let me pull up the team right here. I think my favorite pick, honestly, is DJ Chark, where we got him.
Got
I really
pretty
think
good value on that.
I think Chark is probably the number 2 guy there for at least that first half of the season. And what I saw of him in Jacksonville, I really think he's pretty talented.
I like him too. He takes the top off the defense. He opens things up, and they definitely need that.
Yeah, and my second favorite pick would have been, I think, Chase Edmonds. People are really just taking a fucking nap on this guy right now. Like,
yeah, I love Chase Edmonds
really
too. I'm with you.
All right, so let's just hop back into the draft real quick so that we can look at Bond B's team. And my chat isn't updating for some reason. I don't know why StreamYard does that, but thank you guys.
The only questions you missed were Bond rating the team, and then they said, was fun doing this with y'all. Thank you very much for the kind words. Love doing these drafts. And then Pat, this may be a relative of yours, said,
my dad.
Diggs, I saw the last name. Diggs have a major fall off. I don't think so. Do you think Diggs is going to have a fall off?
I wouldn't think so. I mean, I'm not as high as some people are on Stephon Diggs, but I think that he'll be pretty all right. I mean, I'd be surprised if he wasn't a top 10 receiver.
Yeah, I think so too. It's just the volume is going to be so crazy with him.
Yeah. Thank you for joining the stream, everybody. So real quick, Brendan Bond's team. Shout out to Brendan. He was in the last stream. I think he's been in every single stream. So shout out to him. So his team is Josh Allen, Mac Jones at quarterback. So that's a nice AFC East stack right there. Travis Etienne, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Stevenson, Gus Edwards, and Donta Foreman. His receivers are Stephon Diggs, Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith, Allen Lazard, MVS, Jameson Crowder, Jacoby Myers, Wan'Dale Robinson, Paris Campbell, and then tight ends are Rob Tonyan and Mark Andrews. I think he has an excellent team, personally.
Me too. It's kind of like the best of both worlds, where he got solid receivers right away, especially Diggs, and then he blended that with upside receivers on teams that are unsettled. So I like the Green Bay, Allen Lazard, like the MVS for Kansas City. Jameson Crowder in Buffalo is not the most settled. Wan'Dale could be playing the slot immediately if Sterling Shepard's Achilles isn't what we think. And then he blended that with running backs that are just going way too low. Gus Edwards and Travis Etienne both have significant roles, and I believe they should both be going higher. So, yeah, really good team here. Really good team.
Yeah, I really like the team as well. Again, I'm not the highest on Mac Jones, but in terms of best ball as a QB2, I wouldn't be surprised if he had a couple top 12 weeks. The problem with him is just like there's really no rushing upside, right? This guy's just
and the positive is he is Josh Allen. So if Mac Jones even appears in the lineup twice, I think that's a win. And he did blend that with New England players. So I think just having like on the day where Mac Jones has maybe that 35-point game, like you'd think Jacoby Myers has something to do with it.
Yeah, I agree. I like his team a ton. And then last question here, if we get out of here, Best Ball Moderate says, is Stoop Connor draftable? Both of the running backs are coming off of injuries. What do you think? I would
love to get news. So, but before we make the call on Snoop Connor, basically it comes down to, is James Robinson healthy? Because James Robinson tore the Achilles really late in the year. If James Robinson misses the entire year, I think Snoop's probably the number 2. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would say so. But again, it's all on James Robinson, right? If James Robinson comes back like by week 7 or something, then I don't think Snoop
Yeah.
Connor, you're really getting too much value, at least in my opinion.
Agreed.
So again,
Agreed.
that is something like you said, where maybe drafting right now, I wouldn't be drafting Stoop Connor, but maybe in August, if we hear, oh man, James Robinson is struggling, this, that, and the other thing, then boom, you draft Snoop Connor.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. So do you have any last words here before we head on out of here? Thank you guys, by the way, for joining the stream. And if you guys have any questions, again, next time, make sure you leave them in the chat. We're going to be doing this basically every single Monday. And then real quick, make sure you guys do use promo code Awesemo if you are new to Underdog. If you deposit $100, they will match that up to $100. So if you deposit 100, you get $200. That's either 4 free entries into the Best Ball Mania 3 tournament or the Best Ball Mania 1 tournament. I think. I don't know which one
It's
it is.
3. It's the
Oh, it's
third
3.
year. Yeah.
Okay. Best Ball Mania 3, or you can get 20 free entries into the puppy, which is the draft we did today. I think it's a lot easier to max enter the puppy than it is to max enter the Best Ball Mania 3.
It just depends on your bankroll, but for me as well, my friend, me as well.
All right. So you got anything here to add before we head on out here? Again, thank you guys so much for watching.
No, same thing as you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. It's a blast doing these on Monday. It's a privilege to be able to do them with you, so thank you.
No problemo. So we're going to head out of here. I'm going to play the end card here. We're going to listen to some tunes, and then we're going to get on out of here. So thank you guys for watching. I love all you guys. Hope you guys have a great rest of your guys' day. And I'll see you guys back with more videos, and then we'll be live again Monday.